Hi, and thank you for joining me for day 8 of Scraptember. And today's prompt is to use multiple photos. So I've chosen 3 photos of a fabulous sunset that we saw when we were on a cruise back in 2016. So I've taken this sunburst stencil from Bramble Fox because I thought this would be perfect for the background for these 3 photos, and I've chosen 3 Distress Oxide inks that match the colours in the sunset, which go from a yellow to a pink to a blue. So I've used Antique Linen as the yellow, and then I'm moving on to Worn Lipstick for the pink, and then Blueprint Sketch for the blue. So I'm just very carefully blending these colours together, using a scrap piece of paper to dump the first amount of ink so that you don't get the big blob. And it still looks a little bit patchy on the video, but in real life it's not that patchy. Just checking that I'm happy with the positioning and the way it's going there before I move on to the Blueprint Sketch. So repositioning the stencil, and then I'll go in with that. So as you can see, the stencil only takes the inking so far up the page, and I really want these sun rays to go right the way to the top, or more or less to the top. So I'm going to use some washi tape, which I'll cut in half, to continue the lines along, and then I can continue to ink. You'll see what I mean when I've done. So you see, it's almost as if I'm creating the stencil and extending it up. So I'll use those two pieces of washi and just move them along so that I can extend each of the sunburst sun rays up the page. So just finishing those off now here, and I'm much happier with how that looks. Now you'll see I've gone over the lines in some places, but because Distress Oxides are water soluble, I'm just using a piece of tissue and some water to rub those lines out, and it works really well. So a great tip for you: if you ever go over your stencil lines, just wet them and wipe them away, either with a baby wipe or just some water and a tissue. Works really well. So now I'm just trying to decide what I want to do next. First of all, I take a very fine tipped black pen, and I'm just going to accentuate the left hand side of each of the sun arrows just to make them pop a little bit more. So just finishing those last few there. And now I'll put the photos back on again and see where I go next. Now I've got that, you can see in the top right hand corner of the screen, that black paper with the white script on, and I was quite keen to use that as the mat for the photos. So I'm just working out exactly what I want to do with that here. And I love how that brings some colour and vibrancy to both the page and makes those photos really pop. So I want a torn edge at the bottom, tapering down towards the centre, and I'm tearing from the back so that the white's on the back, and then I can just turn those edges up. And I really like how that looks. So I don't think I mentioned before, I'm using the Heidi Swapp Sun Chaser collection for this. So next I want to go in with these puffy titles just to see if there's anything that I can use. I try a few. Sun Chaser looks quite nice, but we're not chasing the sun, we're watching it go down. And then I see Shine Bright, and that's what I end up with. Just try and explore and a few others, but Shine Bright works perfectly. So I'll just cut those out, keeping them on the backing so that I can move them around and decide exactly where I'm going to position them once the photos have been stuck down. And it's while I'm doing this that I realise that the white background is really very stark. There's not a lot of colour there, So I want to mat the main piece onto some other coloured papers. So I think I'm going to use the mustard, but in fact the pink works really well because there's so much pink showing in the sun. So I try that, and then I suddenly think, once I've cut this paper down, I cut it down by 3/4 of an inch in total. And once this is cut down, I try this on the pink and realise that I do want to bring some of that mustard in. So I cut just 1/2 inch off 2 sides of the mustard, so it just gives a very small piece showing. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I just wanted it like that, just a small piece of the mustard showing and a larger pink border, and I'm really happy with how that looks. So you'll see me now just cutting 1/2 inch off each side, each of the 2 sides I should say. And because I don't want this to be too heavy, I got the centre from this mustard paper. It's a nice tone on tone, so I know that I'll be able to use this again, even if when I disband the Sun Chaser collection that I've got, when I've used most of it up, it'll work with most other papers or as a backing sheet. So this is the one I choose to gut. And now that's done, I'm much happier with the colours that I've got there, but I want to bring some more of that pink down to the bottom underneath the black photo mat. So again, I'm going in with the worn lipstick and using the packaging technique. So I just squidge some of the ink onto some packaging, wet that, and then use another piece of packaging to spread it over the bottom of the page where I think it should go. But you'll see, first attempt, I just add it all over loosely, position my paper back in position, and it's completely covered. And this is why you'll quite often see me using pencil marks, because I'm just hopeless at judging where I should be putting things, and I always end up covering up what I've done. So just adding a little bit more there, and I'll try again, and that's much better. Look, you can just see it peeking out from underneath the paper. So clean that one off. And then I decide, once that's dried a bit, I want to go in with the antique linen to bring some of that yellow in as well. So here's the antique linen, same principle, putting water in it and then using the packaging technique. Now I go over the top and I start putting it on and quickly realise that it's blending with the blue to create a green, which I definitely don't want. So I'm just dabbing up the bits where it's blended with the blue, and I'll leave the rest to dry naturally. And then I use a paintbrush to just flick it on the top and then over the bottom as well. So I move that to one side to dry so that I can work on the photo mat. So I want to mat the photos on a little bit of tissue paper just to soften the edges, because it's going on a stark black. I just think this will look really nice and just, as I say, soften everything. So having a quick look at those definition stickers, I know I want to use some of those on this layout. I mount the two outer photos onto foam pads and leave the middle one just flat against the paper because I want to be able to overlap the title onto that, so it's easier if it's flat against the black photo mat. So working on the two outside ones first, and then I'll stick the other one down afterwards. Now before I stick that middle photo down, I decide to distress the other three edges of this photo mat. I want that photo to overlap the top of the photo mat, so I need to do the distressing before going any further. But once this is distressed, I'll stick that down just with double-sided tape. So now to stick the whole thing down onto the pink backing paper, and then I can stick that photo mat down afterwards. And now that photo mat's down, I can start working on the title. Initially I thought that I was going to have the words side by side, but the T overlapped the right hand photo, and because that's raised up on phone, I wasn't quite happy with that, so I decided to put them one beneath the other, and it was just working out how to slot them in because of the large tail on the B and the H. It was making sure that everything slotted nicely, but it all worked out. So once that shines on, I'll stick the bright down. I do love these puffy stickers, they stick really well, and they're quite malleable, so if you wanted to bend them around something, you could do that with these. So just making sure that the tail of that B falls within the H, the upper of the H. And look, doesn't that look lovely? So then I'm going to use some of the little sprinkly bits that are on that puffy sticker sheet. So I've got a puffy heart here that goes there, and then I found another small mustard puffy heart on the sheet that I'm just cutting off screen, and that goes down underneath the S. Now, turning my attention to these definition stickers, straight away I see one that says splendid, adjective, excellent, fine or very good. And I think that will go nicely underneath the picture of the kids looking at the sunset. So just deciding whether to overlap it over the border or just on the white card, but I just keep it to the white card edge. And then I find one more that said life is good. And that's it from those. And now adding my journaling, I go underneath the black photo mat, and it just says the sunset as we left Dubrovnik that evening really was something else. It's pretty spectacular. Now using a scrap of the yellow paper, I'm using my EK Success border punch, which if you watch me regularly, you'll know I absolutely love. And I'm just going to add a piece to the left and right photo just to bring them more or less level with that middle photo. So tearing it off and then trimming off the excess at the bottom and just roughing up the edges, and then I'll do the same on the right hand side as well. As you'll see, this is why I keep all my scraps, because you don't need very much, but it really makes a difference to the overall layout. And then just checking the size, ripping the bit off that I don't need, roughing it up, and then I'll just use my wet glue to stick that down. And once that one's down, I'll do the other side as well. So off camera, I used my EK Success tab punch to punch a tab, which I thought I was going to use to add the date on. But when I tried it on the layout, I wasn't quite happy, so I'm turning to these free printables that we have on Hey Little Magpie, the labels, and using one of the yellow ones of those, and I'll stamp the date on that. It's going on the bottom underneath that photo of Ross and I. And I wanted something to finish it off, so I'm looking through these circles and I end up with one that says wow, because it really was a spectacular sunset. So just checking that I'm happy with that, and then I'll add the date. So using my trusty date stamp and that blueprint sketch, I'll add the date to that tab just there, and then I'll glue the wow circle to that, and they'll both nestle underneath the photo there. And once that's down, just one more check on that puffy sheet to see if there's anything else I can add. I want to fill up that gap above the T, and I find another puffy heart to layer on top of that first one, and it just fills that gap a little bit up. And once that's down, I shall keep looking through. Now I've got this Endless Summer pack from Cocoa Vanilla from a few years ago, and I keep that with this Sun Chaser because it works so well together with it. So I'm just trying a few different pieces because I want to fill up the area that I'm working on now. I just feel that it's a bit too straight across the top of the photos at the moment. So I love this arrow. Try it in a few places, but it settles on the right hand side. And it's at this point I remember that there's letters that spell out the word summer, and then there are a few different words. This one here that says fun, one that says days, and one that says love. So you can have summer fun, summer days, summer love, love summer. So I decided that I definitely want to spell out summer above that middle photo, and the letters fit just perfectly. And then it's just deciding which word I want to go with it. In the end I settle with fun, and that gets layered on top of the photo beneath the word summer. I've put it there in the middle, but in fact I move it over to the right hand side slightly, and I love that arrow layered onto the heart. I try a few different things, but in the end it gets layered on top of that love it wooden heart. It's amazing how much we can faff, isn't it? But I will glue all this down in a little bit. So finally that's it all glued down. Now I'm coming in with some enamel dots just from my drawer of stash that I've got from a long time ago, and just scattering a few of those about the place. And then once those are down, I'm going to come in with my Heidi Swapp Colour Shine in gold and just add some sprinkles all over the layout. And with that it's done, and that's another day complete. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do check the description box down below for the playlist of everybody else who's joining in on this fun hop, and I shall be back tomorrow with the next day's prompt. See you then. Bye.